Welcome to The Short Fuse. I'm Elizabeth Howard, your host. This episode is the unedited recording of a program I moderated at Lemuria Bookstore in Jackson, Mississippi, that considered the importance of education, reading, and libraries in Mississippi's prison system. Mississippi is recognized as having one of the highest incarceration rates in the United States and providing inadequate care for the individuals housed there. We all receive a life sentence at birth. The circumstances, the environment, the politics, the possibilities, the challenges, and the length of time we have, random. Foucault, in his books Discipline and Punish, takes us through the evolution of the Western penal system, how we have treated those individuals who have committed an act against society, or a perceived act, or perhaps have not committed an act at all. The spectacle of the death, the focus on the trial, the cells within the institution that house those who have been removed. Yet we know they are there, like the child in Ursula Le Guin's story, The Ones Who Walked from Omelas. Through reading, through libraries, through book clubs, individuals who are serving time or life sentences or on death row have an opportunity to find space for themselves within the routine as they, like Vladimir and Ostergun in Waiting for Godot, wait and wait and wait. We thank Lemuria Books, this year celebrating their 50th anniversary, the Mellon Foundation, the Mississippi Humanities Council, Big House Books, and Shower Power. We salute their work and hope you will support them. So welcome to everyone. I want to first thank John Evans and Lemuria Books for hosting us. And it was actually through John when I think I had just arrived in Jackson, and the first thing I did was to stop at Lemuria Bookstore. And then he introduced me to Holly at Big House Books, and it's all kind of spread so that I've been able to meet other people. So thank you to Lemuria for hosting this. And then to Holly at Big House Books, who's done so much since I'm not here. I'm Elizabeth Howard, hosting the Short Fuse podcast from New York, and so Holly did so much of everything that was here. And I'd like to thank Reverend Ann Maxwell, who's here, who's also been so important in introducing me to people in Jackson and getting to know St. Andrew's Cathedral, so thank you. I want to introduce our panelists. So we have Holly Smith who's a board member and volunteer at Big House Books. Carla Falkner, who's the project coordinator for Mississippi Humanities Council, and Nicholas Spradley, who's the executive director at Shower Power. Before we can you tell us a little bit, Nick, about Shower Power?
Sure, yes. Shower Power, we're a homeless nonprofit based here in Jackson, Mississippi. We take care of the population of people experiencing homelessness from Jackson and the surrounding counties. We have a group of CPAs that come in every Friday and fill out all their forms and everything to get their birth certificates and IDs so they can go to the Social Security office to get their Social Security card. And we take care of a bunch of other things too, case by case. We have a program through Shower Power, it's called Project Hope, where we sponsor adults for a lifetime that need help, that aren't able to take care of themselves. We have different donors that come in and decide they want to give their money for a specific person that we have on our list, and they sponsor them forever. And then we also do temporary shelters too for inclement weather. So whenever the weather gets below freezing or too hot, we'll open up Shower Power and have everybody there and take care of them until the weather decides to agree with us again.
And Carla, just a few words about the Humanities Council.
The Humanities Council is a nonprofit, but we get our funding from Congress through the National Endowment for the Humanities. And our mission is that we learn about ourselves, about the world around us, about Mississippi, through civil conversations and programming. So what we do is a lot of programming, like you'll hear about today, and we do a lot of it through partnerships, like a partnership with Big House Books.
So Holly, just a few words about the wonderful organization.
Yeah, and there are so many people here, so thank you, family and friends who have come today to support Big House Books. A lot of folks here in Jackson already know about Big House Books, but we do send books by request to people inside Mississippi's prisons and jail systems. It's a very simple process. People write us letters each week. Our P.O. box is chock full of letters asking for books. And people like you graciously donate books. None of the books that we have are bought. They're all donated. And then we convene every week in a warehouse space in Midtown, right behind Millsaps College. If you're familiar with Nuts, I love that thrift store. We're right across the street from Nuts. And our volunteers convene weekly, every Sunday from 12 to 2. So we get the after church crowd, we get the other church crowd. All types of folks come through our doors to volunteer. People that are into books, maybe not into books, but just want some time to fill in service of a mission to provide books to those that really want them. And we have existed for over 10 years now, but really in the last couple of years, we've grown a lot. And we're super excited about that growth because we want to do more. So partnerships like these are very crucial to growing. So thank you.
So I've done a little research, and we have about 2 million people incarcerated in the United States. There's about 1,500 state prisons, 122 federal prisons, and then roughly about 3,000 local jails. There's no single data about how many libraries there are in the American carceral system, but the recent estimates in 2025 is that there are about 917 libraries. So we can see that there's a lot of prisons in the United States that do not have libraries. So Carla, can you tell us a little bit about the libraries within the Mississippi Correctional, and also with some of the things that you do around, for example, reading groups and book clubs?
Okay, so I'll start with the libraries, and it just varies tremendously with the facility. Because we've got regional facilities that house maybe 350 people, and they'll have, maybe about that big of a space, a shelf of books. And then you've got the larger places like CMCF and Parchman, and they'll have a larger library. But there's still issues. There's issues like with access. So you've got a fairly good size, it's not huge, but fairly good size library, maybe this size room at Parchman. But the only people that have full access to it are the guys that are in the education unit, Unit 30. And the others just have this list, and they look at the list and request a book and then wait for it to show up. I do have to tell you about my favorite prison library that I've seen, and that is when I visited Death Row. They said, "You want to see our library?" And it says so much about how important books are in this space. But they had taken 2 empty cells and turned it into their library. One cell was for the religious books, and y'all, that kind of tells you about how many religious books make it to the prisons through donations. My other thing is that every Mississippi prison library has lots of John Grisham. Yes, because the books are donated, and we've all read John Grisham and passed those books along. So anyway, the other cells for the secular books, they had no shelves, so they had taken a prison cot, and they lined the books up, spine up, from one end of that cot to the other, 3 rows. Then there's a row underneath, where the books are standing up like it's a shelf. They had an old, I guess, a kind of chest or drawer that they had turned into some shelves. So wherever they could, they had created that library. One of the men serves as the librarians. And to me, it's such a symbol of the importance of books and reading in this space. So, the Mississippi Humanities Council has been doing a prison ed program since 2021, and the leader in that program has been Mississippi Delta Community College at Parchman. And so, like the first year of that program, one of the Parchman educators told me, she said, "I'd like to start a book club. Does the Mississippi Humanities Council do that kind of thing?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's us. That's us exactly." But it's also us that if we were going to go into that space and do that kind of programming, we wanted to do it with the same standards, the same quality as if we were doing programming at University of Mississippi or anywhere else. So we spent some time thinking about what it needed to look like, and plus it took some time to get it into the prison. But what we ended up with was that a humanities scholar would go in and we'd spend like 4 weeks on a book. For that first scholar in that first book club, we asked Dr. Ebony Lumbumba, who is the chair of the English department at Jackson State. We asked her to lead it. And we chose that first book, and we chose Sing Unburied Sing by Joseph Ward.
Wonderful book.
And, it's partly set at Parchment. We had no idea how this was going to go. We had no idea whether the men were going to like it. We had no idea whether the prison was going to go with it. It took off almost immediately. Before we knew it, we had 65 members, and we were having to say, it's a book club, So, we've got to call it, put a capital on membership. They named themselves Freedom Within. They elected a slate of officers and kind of took over leadership of it. We don't pick those books anymore. We do have, we buy them so we can have a little veto power when we need it. But basically, they picked those books. The last book they picked that they're going to read coming up is Beloved. And so they've consistently picked quality literature. It went so well that then we took that model elsewhere. The next place was South Mississippi Correctional Institution, which has a strong book club of 40 guys that does serious reading. They'll be meeting next week with the author through Zoom, who is a Harvard professor of the book that they're reading on leadership. In fiscal year 2025, we ended up with 16 book clubs in 12 prisons. We're running around 370 members at any given time, because membership's somewhat fluid. And the work has continued to grow. I got a request yesterday for another book club. And I'm very proud that we don't just have book clubs in these larger state prisons. We have book clubs for the underserved. We have a book club, and of course this is at Parchment, but we have a book club for death row. We have a book club for the nursing home unit. We have book clubs in the women's prisons, which are often underserved. And at Yazoo City, the federal prison, we have a book club for native Spanish speakers. And that book club is done in Spanish. So we're very proud of that work, but it's the guys, the members, the men and women, they've embraced it completely, and they've made it happen.
I just got this book. I read it on the plane here because I had just received it, and this was written by Joseph Patrick Brown. The image that they painted, he's on death row in a Mississippi prison in Parchment. And I will say, Samuel Beckett's play, Waiting for Godot, was presented done at the San Quentin, California prison, and the people who worked on it said they've never seen such a production because it's all about waiting and waiting and waiting, and they said the people there just got it more than most people would understand this book. And I think that's the same with something like Sing Unburied Sing. I mean, you can read it. I was going to have Holly read some letters, but I want to start, since you were in prison and did a lot of reading in a Mississippi prison, perhaps you can tell us what it meant to you and what access you had to the library.
Sure. What she said is 100% correct. A lot of people don't have access besides a sheet of paper. I wasn't one of those. My experience, I was able to work in the library.
Which prison were you in?
I did 2 years at CMCF and 2 years in a prison in Tennessee. I was extradited here. The first prison in Tennessee, there were no books, but it was during COVID. They wouldn't allow us to have books at all. We didn't have books, we couldn't write mail, we couldn't do anything. So when I came down to Mississippi to do my time, that all opened up for me. and I was able to visit the library. And the library at CMCF in the main building is pretty big. It's probably about half the size of the room that we're in now. And sometimes it's packed full of books. Sometimes there's just a couple, and a lot of John Grisham, a lot of Stephen King, she's correct, a lot of like fantasy and romance and stuff like that. But the reason I've finagled my way in is because I'm into like beekeeping or gardening or do-it-yourself stuff. All these different things I wanted to do with my life after I got out of prison. So they're not on the list. Those books are hidden in the nooks and crannies of the library there. So
But we have them.
you sure do. I wrote to you guys many times. You helped me out plenty. Thank you so much. I think the only one that I didn't get.
Beekeeping is a huge draw.
The only one I didn't get from you guys was I think you all sent me a book on Boy Scouts knot tying.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't have this. I thought it was an escape or something.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know that for that. I'm sorry. That's just what they sent me. But yeah, you guys are amazing. I mean, without you, it would be really been hard on me. My parents were very great. I do come from a wonderful family. I went through addiction and decided to get better and stuff, but my family stuck by me. So what I couldn't get from Big House, because they don't have it either a lot of times, I mean, they just can send what they have. You might write for something specifically, but you get something else, For me, it was cool. It was a great surprise, but I would then call mom and dad and say, this is what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on Thailand this week or whatever, and so they would make it happen.
But can I so there are restrictions though. I mean, you can only, how many, there's restrictions on the number of books you can receive. They have to be paperback. So talk about that.
So,
I mean, it wasn't just like your parents could send you a box of books.
That is correct. So there are hardback books in the library there, but you're not allowed to have them in. But if you are privileged, there's people in prison that are privileged. If you're privileged, you can have people bring them in for you. So you can get hardback books that way. The big thing for like the struggle that I saw, because when I got out, I immediately went to them to volunteer. And one of the things I saw is it's not just CMCF. You guys have different restrictions for different prisons.
Yeah.
It's not the same linear set of guidelines you can go through. Because I remember filling an order and somebody was like, oh, they can't have a spiral notebook.
Yeah.
We couldn't have notebooks at all. Like they would not allow us to have. You couldn't get your family to send you a notebook to write a journal, and you guys can't send them there, but we sent it to another smaller regional, I believe. Somebody else had asked. But yeah, it is very confusing. It's institution by institution. The first institution that I was at was in Kemper County, and it was a small regional. It was just very small. The library was literally the size of the shelf right there. That was it, and nobody got any books, and you couldn't send any in. They don't allow books to come in, period. Your family couldn't even send them in. I was bored out of my mind, and that's why we figured out a way to get me back to CMCF so I could have the floodgates open a little bit and I could, actually get books, They were very important to me.
So, Holly, tell us about, the books people order and,
and
and
talking,
the Christian books that you are.
And also kind of playing off what you said, Nick, it's good to hear your perspective too, because, week by week we read these letters and the letters really run the gamut. And you're right. There are people in prison that have families on the outside with resources that can freely buy them books. But if you know anything about Mississippi, we're a very impoverished place. There's also such thing as called the school to prison pipeline. So a lot of folks enter the system, maybe don't come from great backgrounds, are not well read or really can't read, that are trying to learn how to read. And so it's those populations especially that we're trying to reach. And in particular, if you are denoted, or I don't really know the word to use there, but they will self-identify themselves as indigent, and their envelopes are stamped with red letters, indigent. And they get one sheet of paper, one stamp, and one envelope a month. And so we literally get scraps of paper that are this big. Please send me some books, and 3 little lines of genres. Please send me whatever you have. And then sometimes, if you're a little more privileged, we might get a 5-page love letter about the latest genre novel. And so it's really important for me to convey that fact, because access is so critical. Yes, there may be a library, but in times where the warden is not having a great day, or somebody does something to make somebody mad, or they just haven't had their cup of coffee today, they can block access to that library. We've learned anecdotally through the letters that we received that libraries are a privilege, not a right. And so especially if someone is in the hole, meaning they're on lockdown 23 hours a day, they don't typically have access to things like that. And so these books that we give to folks directly, we are literally addressing these packages directly back to them, are lifelines for so many people. It's the only communication from the outside that a lot of folks will receive. And especially, folks that are indigent or that don't have, the family connections or family resources, they're not getting packages or gifts in prison, right? This is the only package that they will receive. And in fact, some of the letters that I brought today, actually 2 of the letters I brought today, refer to receiving our package. And Cole talks about this a lot. Cole is one of our best volunteers. It's like Christmas morning when I get this package of books. When my name is called at mail call, I feel so amazing that I have this package of books waiting for me with my name on it. And it's going to be some books that I want to read because I've written this letter to you guys. And, getting back to folks writing the letters, even like folks that want to write us letters that maybe don't have an allotment of envelopes or can't buy envelopes from the commissary. I have seen a piece of paper frequently folded in a fashion of a envelope and taped using the back sticker of a deodorant that is given to them by the prison system. So that lets you know how the level of what I would call the level of hunger for these books. They will do anything to get these books. And so that's why I really feel like our mission is so crucial and a lifeline to those on the inside. I'll read you a couple letters here. Thank you, Big House Books, for the books that you guys take your time out to provide us in correctional facilities. Thank you and all your supporters for your time and effort that you give to us to take the time out of your busy days to send us books. We really appreciate the books that you send. Our facility does not have a library, so we always look forward to receiving books from Big House Books. You guys just don't know how much we truly appreciate you and the effort to provide us with the literacy to keep our minds stable and help us pass the time. This letter here says, I felt like a kid on Christmas Day and I couldn't wait to get started reading. It means a lot and I'll forever be grateful. Reading has made my stay in prison feel at peace and gets me away from this world, even if it's just, in that moment. And then she wants to read the latest Veronica Roth Divergent series. And then, this person writes, her name's Dorothy. She identifies herself as Dorothy. Your program of books to prisons has transformed not only my life, but many of the prisoners here. When I receive the books you send, I'm so happy because my family can't afford to send me any. Your books have saved my life. And so people ask me, why do you do this, Holly? And it's these letters, like it's instant satisfaction. You know that what you're doing is making a difference in someone's life, even if it's someone that you may not ever meet. So our volunteers are a testament to that. People have really latched on to this mission. It's a really, low entry point to come volunteer with us. You just show up and we can put you to work. So we're there every Sunday from 12 to 2. We'd love to see you.
I would also say what's so impressive about Big House Books is that this is an all volunteer organization.
Yeah,
no one is paid. This is all just, and so the funds that are raised, and I can't think of any other organizations where you can absolutely say this, that all the money that it's given, because what they need money for me of the books, if you have paperback books, you can donate them. And we actually have some books on the shelf. We're hoping everyone might buy a book today that we can donate to Big House Books. But the money is used for postage because the postage is gone up. What is the cost?
Yeah, we spend on average anywhere between $3,000 and $4,000 a month just on postage. That is our largest expense by far. Like you said, we have no paid staff. We're all volunteers. And we use the, preferred USPS media mail rate, so the cheapest rate. And we use very cheap, poly mailer type of supplies. And so we run a very low overhead. And so that's another unique part of the organization is every dollar that's raised is literally connected to getting that package of books into those very hungry hands. And so that's another, really inspiring part to me is that I can be assured that every Sunday that I show up, there's going to be a dozen or more of my friends that show up, or people that I don't know, brand new people that come volunteer that just want to spend a couple hours on a Sunday afternoon doing something good for someone else. And these letters really keep you coming back because you get that thanks and you see the impact of what you're doing every week.
Carla and Nick, I'd like to ask both of you about, so we look at authors, Southern, like William Faulkner, Jesmond Ward, John Gerson, these, they have incorporated, you mentioned that earlier, into their book something about prisons. And when I think of, someone was talking to me last week about Frederick Douglass and his wife, this woman is doing a lot of research on Anna Douglas, Frederick's wife, who was illiterate, who could not read or write. And so we don't have her diaries or the many things that she accomplished. And, we think back to the time when, of course, slaves were not, we did not want them the idea was that they couldn't read or write because they need to be kept at a certain level, right? So how do we, look today at those people in the, you said school to prison pipeline, those people within prisons who haven't been educated and who don't read and who don't know about some of the important books to read? How do we get those books to them and help educate them?
Would you like me to go?
Yes.
Yeah, sure, I'll take care of that. So my first job in prison was teaching GED. So I would sit through classes and you can identify students that don't know how to read, that maybe say they do, but they're maybe embarrassed to admit that, right? One of the cooler things that you can do for them is Audible. It's not Audible in there, but on the tablet there's books that can be read to them. So that's a huge improvement. I do believe that we're headed in that direction with the prison system. There's going to be more of that. The tablets are becoming really popular if you have money to be able to listen to them.
Right. So
It's
they
3 cents a minute.
Access, yes.
3 to 5 cents a minute. And if you think how long it would take to read a book, that book would be pretty expensive for
they're
for an
hours and
inmate.
hours, yeah.
Yeah, but again, on the one place I was at in Madison, in jail, their tablets are 100% free. So you have
That
it.
wasn't in Mississippi.
Yeah, Madison, Mississippi, right up the street, not far. And they had books. I might be saying this wrong, so correct me, Holly. Is it out of copyright? The 100-year mark?
Yes.
So they were all books 100 years
100
ago.
years old.
I like that. I know that they probably didn't 'cause they seemed bored, but I would get them, back to your question, once I would get them up to reading and understanding things, then we would introduce different books, just like you would in school. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty cool to watch somebody take off with that. Because then they start checking out like small ones like Huckleberry Finn. That's always like a first, base book when you're little, So watching them, a guy at 38 years old or 42 years old or, however old, read Huckleberry Finn that I read at 11 years old, first off, it puts in perspective how different our lives are and how different the world can be to different people. Second off, it's really cool to see that person taking the initiative to better themselves no matter what. We're in prison, we're older, all these factors that some people would consider and say, it's a lost cause. They didn't, and they went forward with it. So I think with the students that wanted to learn, they definitely found a way to learn because you're in there, you have nothing but time to figure out these skills, and they're leaving stronger and more knowledgeable than when they came in. That's something I saw and a blessing to have witnessed.
I just add a little bit to that. We have book club members who are teaching others.
Yes.
And so in Marshall County, for example, we had one of our leading book club members. His job was to teach really people who are pre-literate, and so not even at the Huck Finn level.
Yeah.
And so he worked with them, and for a while we tried a book club with them where we did really short pieces, and they dove into it. But it's really interesting because our book clubs have people who are lifelong readers, like you, that of course they're going to go to a book club and welcome it. But we also have people who've never read a book before. And we've got people that, like in Alcorn County, our facilitator told us, he said, I often have them read out loud because I realize they need help with just what those words are and learning those words. And so we do some reading aloud. So, I've got book clubs that are way beyond that, but we've also got members that are very much developing their literacy. And, by being a part of that discussion, even if they couldn't access the whole book, it elevates. And I think it creates a hunger.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, we see that in the letters too. So we get requests for like Charlotte's Web, like children's books. And people are very upfront with us and tell us, I don't read well, or I never learned to read. And so I'd like to start with something. Also, comic books. Comic books are a gateway because obviously full of pictures. They can kind of generally follow the themes. And I'm so excited because we were having dinner last night and I got an email on my phone ding, and there is a gentleman, maybe he's here today, but he is going to donate his collection of comic books. And he was very unsure. He was like, I don't know if he'll take these, but I was like, oh yes, we absolutely will take those. So comic books are great. But you're right, there are people, just like in a school environment, with access and where do you come from? Just by virtue of the fact that you're sitting next to a different student with a different perspective, it elevates you. And we've seen other inmates teaching, others how to read. And they'll say that in the letter. Can you send me, phonics materials? There's a lot of dictionaries are a very hot item for us. And more recently, Spanish to English dictionaries. I want to be able to communicate with the Spanish speaker that has now come into the system. Obviously, probably as a result of ICE activity. And then also GED books, GED study guides, huge draw. Those are a little harder for us to keep because we typically have to purchase those. So if you have any connections to a GED supplier, please let me know. But those are big draws because another thing I'll say is the vast majority of people that are currently incarcerated in our state are going to get out at some point. And they know that, and they're working on making, a path for themselves once they get out. And so many of them communicate to us that I'm working on my GED, I'd like to become an electrician. So we keep those DIY and electrician guidebooks and try to keep them in stock. And so, but again, then you have the readers like, send me a classic. I'm going to be here for 30 years and I want to read all the classics. So we've got a lot of just voracious fiction readers as well. So, yeah.
Carla, you must coordinate with the college, like Hines College and those such,
right.
the ones that put on programs within the system.
Right. So in 2021, the Mississippi Humanities Council got a grant from the Mellon Foundation for us to fund community colleges to teach in prisons. And so the way that works is that with our grant, we're able to pay the instructor, we're able to provide books, the textbooks, supplies. Most of the time I can get composition, those old-timey composition of books into the prisons. Even big pens. You can't have a click pen, by the way. They need to be that straight old, big pen. We provide the supplies. And then the prison, of course, provides the space and the staff support. And the college, of course, all that administrative detail. And are the ones actually teaching the course. But in return for us providing that much of it, the schools are able to offer the courses without charging the students tuition. So under that program, and it has grown, when it started that first semester, we had 2 colleges teaching in 2 prisons. Now we have 5 colleges teaching in 10 prisons. And over the course of those last 5 years, students have earned over 4,500 credits. And we have been able to expand that. Starting out, it was just humanities. But the women at CMCF, when we visited with our Mellon officer, they said, we need math and sciences. We can't graduate without them. And so she said, as long as they're working on like a liberal arts degree, an associate of arts degree, you can fund it. And so we were able to do that. So that this July, we saw the first graduates. Hines Community College had a full graduation ceremony in the prison for one student.
Wow.
Then by December, we had 5 graduates at Mississippi Delta. And so, we are seeing these students earn degrees. Every one of those students who graduated is also a member of the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society. And as the Phi Theta Kappa loves to remind these students, once you're there and you become that honor student, and then later that graduate, you're able to replace labels. You're no longer a convict or an inmate. You are instead an honor student. You are a graduate. And it puts people on the path. I've got to throw in there, we talk a lot about preparing people to get out and, trying to improve yourself. And all of that is there. We've also got people that are in there for life. And they are trying to make their life meaningful while they are there. And boy, we've got some incredible stories, and you'll probably be sharing one in just a minute, of men and women who are making a difference where they are and in the space they are. And that's incredibly inspiring to me, to know that you're going to spend your life at Parchman, and yet you're still finding a way to make a difference.
Absolutely. We see that frequently. And in fact, they're pouring themselves not only into themselves, but into others that they know are going to get a chance to get out.
Exactly.
And they're providing a motivation and a friendship and a community. And that was one thing I wanted to speak about. These book clubs and these books build community. And I believe it was actually Dr. Lumumba who spoke about this at the book festival, that it is very much a community. Prison, as miserable as it is a community of people. And these books and these book clubs facilitate that.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that a little bit. I mean, it's a positive community as opposed to a lot of negative communities. It's a positive community. And just to give you a couple of examples, we've got one book club member, and those of you that have been at our sessions at the book club festival have heard this story, but we've got one member who will tell you, it saved my life. I was suicidal. I was ready to end it all when the other guy said, come to book club with us. And that was a turning point for me. The other, I guess 2 times ago that I was at Parchman, one of the men handed me his written testimony. And he'd been in a battle with cancer, and he had gotten good, he said he got good medical care. He was on the other side of that now. But in the process, he'd gotten back on drugs. And he said, when I got back, it was these book club members that came to me and said, we're not going to let you do that. We're going to get you through this. We're going to get you through it. And he literally credited some of his fellow book club members, guys that I know by name, in getting him back off the drugs and headed in the right direction again. So very strong sense of community.
Holly, I know you've been restricted. You won a lawsuit against the state. Perhaps you can tell us about that.
Yeah, I guess it
There's
was
so many restrictions.
Yeah,
around.
I think it was in 2016, 2017, we actually sued the Department of Corrections because we felt we presented a correspondence that we received back from the DOC rejecting our books. And basically they had a pattern of writing religious text only. Everything else rejected. So we took that to the Mississippi Center for Justice, and they said, nope, this is a First Amendment issue, and we want to take this case. And so pretty much they just wrote a letter, filed a complaint, and DOC immediately stood down. They now recognize us as a distributor, a recognized distributor of books inside the state prison system. And we have policies that are aligned with what they allow. Those policies are 3 paperback books every month someone can receive from us. For the most part, and actually, if you can believe this, Elizabeth, Burl Cain, the commissioner, was quoted on Mississippi Public Broadcasting a couple years ago as saying, "We don't restrict books." This was when the conversation about book banning started happening. And I listened very closely to that podcast, and it was like, that's not actually true. But we don't restrict books. You know, we've been sued before, and we're not in the business of banning books. But we see, and like Nicholas said, it is all the rules are very arbitrary. I get the feeling that superintendents and wardens have a lot of sway over what goes on in their facilities. And so we frequently get book rejections. No rhyme or reason. Most of the time it's just no books allowed. So then we now are organized in a way where we have a letter that we send them and respond to them and remind them that we have a settlement agreement with the DOC that allows us to send books. And what I find, the reason why I think a lot of books are sent back or rejected is the turnover issue inside prisons. And we were talking about this before we started speaking on the panel. Staffing is a major issue in MBOC prisons. You read this in the news all the time. And so the lady that's checking the mail to this week is going to be different next week. And she's may not going to know the rules and what's allowed and what's not allowed. So she's going to ask the warden, who's probably only been on the job for a couple months, and he's just decided what he's going to allow. So we have to constantly message back to state prisons and facilities. I feel like we see less rejection from our county jails. Of course, sheriffs are basically, over those systems. And so we have 82 counties. Some of the counties that you've heard about in the news, they also give us trouble. But for the vast majority, the county sheriffs, I think, see it as a positive. And so we don't have a lot of restrictions there. But sometimes it can just be because somebody doesn't like the way the cover looks, and they'll send it back and they'll just say no books allowed with no reason.
I will say this, the general mood, and you're totally right, the general mood among prison staff that we work with, which are like educators, program directors, and just wardens and superintendents to a lesser degree, is that, your worst enemy in prison is boredom.
Yes.
And so if you want a positive environment in your prison, then you do need to have programming. You do need to have books for people. You do need to have people a way to spend their time constructively. And so there's a lot of that, but then it's still, and I will not name a facility here, but we've had a facility where we've been able to send hardback books. The person over that had told us, he said, I don't know why that rule exists. It's out. Well, he moved on. His interim replacement said, no books.
No hardbacks.
They can be used as a weapon. No hardbacks. And so, it's constantly changing. But the general attitude among like educators, programmers is, yes, we want to help these people have a better life, and it's a safer prison because of it.
Carla, will the Mellon Foundation continue to fund these programs?
Yes, we just have a new grant. So we're good for the next 3 years. I will say this, our book club program is growing faster than the money. And so we will certainly accept donations and we will continue to look for additional funding because we kind of projected the growth and it's showing every sign. Like by March I had met our goals for this year, and then Friday I get a request for another book club.
I'm going to open it because I'm sure there are some questions here. Yes, so go ahead.
I'm going to start with Carla. Carla, can Mississippi Humanities Council assist Shower Power and Big House Books in grant funding? Can you help them get more money?
Can I throw that to my boss back there?
Sub-grant, we'll take a sub-grant.
Well, we are currently not receiving the federal funding that Congress has appropriated for us. I was just in D.C. trying to work on that along with my colleagues from other councils around the country. Generally speaking, Big House Books, yeah, in fact, as Holly was talking, I was thinking of ways that we could coordinate and kind of help and assist. And so hopefully once Congress's appropriations are distributed the way that Congress intends, I hope that we would be in a way to help support Big House Books. Shower Power, I mean, it would depend on the programming. We have limits in terms of types of things we can fund, books, humanities, education, and so there obviously may be some overlap there. You know, we were brought into this work almost 10 years ago to some extent, and we didn't have any experience working in incarcerated spaces, and we have created a range of partnerships with organizations that we had never considered and intended. And the way the Humanities Council works is through partnerships, and so ways that we can help support those organizations, we will strive to find a way.
And just, Nick, a quick question to you. So if I know it's always difficult. I remember years ago hearing a woman speak. She had been in prison as part of the Rockefeller drug laws, which was, I mean, she was literally had some marijuana in her hand with her boyfriend, and the rule was 15 years. You know, that was it. But she lived in East Harlem, and she had small children. But when she came back, and someone at the Village Voice had helped her write a book, but it was very difficult for her to reemerge into society because she came back to kind of a chaotic, life. It wasn't structured, and she found that very difficult. So if you have been reading in prison and had access to these things, then some of the people you find who are homeless and work with have probably, do they use the public library, or do they continue to the public libraries help them here?
Yes, yeah, they go to the libraries for the internet access.
Yeah.
But actually at Shower Power, like 2 months ago, we started a library there. So our library is pretty big. It's probably about half of the wall on one side.
And these are donated books. So
these are all donated books.
So anybody
We can get you more.
I brought some to y'all not so long ago. Yeah, my parents brought some from Tennessee. But a lot of people just drop them off to us. And believe it or not, during the shelter, when we opened our shelter, I mean, people were all over it. It was really cool to see them grabbing a book. The first question is this free? Like, yes, of course it is. So then they go through and pick out which one they wanted. It started by just taking a wagon out front on Fridays with whatever books we had, and they would kind of like pick through the wagon and see what kind of book they wanted and take it with them. But now it's grown to bookshelves, and we had a couple people donate bookshelves, so it's just growing and growing and growing, and we plan on keeping it going. So yeah, people are definitely reading books at Shower Power.
Other questions?
Nick, I feel a brotherhood with you. I want to say congratulations on your recovery.
Thank you very much.
I hope Shower Power's overwhelming winter has taken your struggle, made it easier for you.
Oh yes, absolutely.
To be so responsible.
Yeah, I mean, Shower Power has been lovely.
A lifesaver?
When I was in, prison for me, I won't say prison, but the time in prison was a lifesaver for me. Because I was so addicted. I was a real estate broker before, and I quit real estate and then went to prison for 4.5 years. And when I got out, before I got out, I had met some people and had some things in play to work for the state. So when I got out, I worked for Heinz Behavioral Health, the Bridge, the homeless drop-in. I did that for just a few months, and then the founder of Shower Power and the treasurer, another lady that I'm super close with, came to my birthday party, and they're like, do you want to come aboard? I was like, of course, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was life-changing there too. I have a 13-year-old son. I want to do something that makes him proud and happy. I want something to fulfill my soul as well. Yeah. And Shower Power, I was volunteering there already since I had gotten out. It worked perfectly. I mean, everything in my life is, since giving all that up and since just doing the next right thing, has turned out better, than I could ever imagine. It's been great.
One more comment.
Okay.
Y'all, if you get nothing out of today's lecture, send Holly a big-ass check. Go home and write a big-ass check.
He's our biggest cheerleader.
Amy, you had a question.
Well, I was wondering, do y'all ever use, like, I go to the library in Canton, and I go to other libraries like the one in the Delta, and they always have shelves and shelves and shelves of free books.
Yes.
And they let me take those to the women in prison.
This past week, I feel like I unlocked a new level of being a Jacksonian. Let me tell you why. Hines County Library System had their book sale, and Madison County had their book sale. And Hines County automatically donates everything to us that doesn't sell. And so we got bukus of boxes, and we also have supporters that go there that buy the books, the real good ones at the beginning. But then Madison County, I got no less than 4 boxes of books on their free day. So yes, we look for those opportunities, and it was great because those were in the same week. And now we've got a ton of books ready to be shelved at our space tomorrow. So we've got lots of opportunity for people to come and help us get those books on those shelves and into those packages.
There's another-
Yes. Libraries are great. Lemuria, also shout out to Lemuria because they donate their ARCs, their advanced reader copies to us, and other inventory as they're kind of moving their inventory around. We've got the book rack here around the corner, used bookstore, they donate to us. And then also one of our volunteers got really smart. We still sometimes get folks that don't always read the fine print and donate hardbacks to us, which we cannot use. But what we have now is a volunteer that goes and volunteers also at the Real McCoy thrift store, which is a fabulous thrift store. It's my favorite thrift store. And she will go trade the hardbacks for their paperbacks. And so we've unlocked that little lever. So we're real strategic about getting the best books. And I will say in the last couple years, because of like just being upfront with people about what our policy is and what the books are that people want to read, our stock has just increased in quality. I mean, when we first started, we were getting real bad books, like books falling apart. They had been up in grandma's attic, bug infested. But now it's like, now that we've advertised and Miranda's there in the back, she helps remind people a lot too. These are the titles. These are the kind of books that we need. We want like new condition or, and we still get sometimes the hardbacks donated, but we've now been able to kind of use that to our advantage and get the books that we need.
Can you go through that genre list?
Oh gosh, it's too long. Everything that you read on the outside, they're reading on the inside and then more. Everything from beekeeping, everything under the sun, nonfiction, beekeeping, chicken coop. I want to build a chicken coop when I get out. I want to travel. I want to live off the grid. I want to learn to be an electrician. I want to be a better man for my family. So semi-self-help, religious texts, all the fiction, up, down, and around, classics, modern, everything from Colleen Coble to John Grisham and Greg Iles and Jesmond Ward and classics. Black authors are a huge request for us, just because there is a disproportionate amount of Black people incarcerated in our state relative to the population. And those are really good books. Like Black authors rule Big House Books because they're writing really good things that I think resonate with people that are incarcerated. And so we have a very specific Black author shelf. We also have a queer shelf. We have a connection with the LGBTQ Fund of Mississippi. Shout out to them, and Brandy's here today representing them. So we are able to buy books with a grant that they provide from Violet Valley Bookstore, which is in Water Valley, Mississippi. And they source those books for us to have a good selection of queer author and queer theme books. So we're doing what we can to kind of keep in stock the things that people are wanting to read. But anything under the sun that you can think of that you've ever read in your life, they're asking for on the inside.
Any other questions? I thought I saw. Yes.
Yeah, so I want to know if any of you individuals could make any recommendations on behaviors that we can contribute to that might reduce this prison to school pipeline that you guys mentioned. Because I understand that working with the groups who are incarcerated kind of approach things from the back end, but what can we invest our time in based off what you guys understand that could reduce these rates?
Very good question.
Lobby your elected officials as our local one stands up, please. Access to libraries, access for children to have, access to books and educational materials. After school programming is obviously a huge draw. of course, we all know a lot of the federal funding has been cut, so accessing philanthropic sources to try to fill those holes as well, giving to these organizations that are doing the work, as we say, and just getting out into your communities and serving alongside people that have these passions too. You know, that's what that's why I serve at Big House Books. Like you said, none of us are paid staff. We're all volunteers. But I get so much satisfaction in 2026 going to a community-led space on a weekly basis and interfacing with people that don't look like me, that are of a different generation than me, Cole, maybe students.
You call me old.
Yes, older than me. We have students, we have all walks of life that can volunteer for us. And it is so satisfying when one of them, like Earl, who's a buttoned up CPA, is talking to Ren, who is a social justice, wants to be civil rights, attorney, about, well, what's the difference between sci-fi and fantasy? And they're pondering this topic. That would never happen literally on the outside in this kind of environment of discourse that we're experiencing. So selfishly, my experience at Big House Books is not only just to serve the people that are writing letters, it's to serve myself and get that satisfaction of being in community with other people that care about this mission.
I'd just add one thing to thinking about working with people beforehand. Studies show that a large number of people who are incarcerated have learning disabilities, and a lot of them have never had a positive educational experience ever. And in fact, that's something fairly common is they start taking classes or they get in the book club and they go, oh, I am smart. I didn't know. But whatever can help, when you hear things about trying to reach those populations, those matter. Because getting children where they can read and have some confidence in their ability can make a difference all the way through their life.
What if everyone in this room wanted to write a letter about the importance of these organizations, all of them, together, and the coordination? I mean, the fact that we're all working together. Would you write to the governor or to who would you write to?
I would say all of the above. I want everyone to know about Big House Books, Shower Power, and the Mississippi Humanities Council.
Yeah, and the importance of education in prison. So if everyone would write to the governor and the importance of.
And I always make the point, it behooves us because the majority of people are going to get out one day. They're going to be our neighbors. And so it benefits us all to kind of elevate the rehabilitation, or sometimes lack thereof, that's happening inside these walls. And, I just can't think of a better mission than to, in a cheap, way to make a difference in someone's life. I mean, the proof is in the letters that we get every week. But yeah, great to see my local city council person here, but also getting in front of politicians and talking about how education is such a key part of rehabilitation inside our prison system.
There's another question.
Yes.
I'm just going to make a comment. I was real eye-opening. I don't know if any of you went to the book festival, but they did the presentation on the prison.
Yeah.
And it had all of the prisoners, and I just never thought about a book club and being able to interact and have a meaningful conversation with other people, how it was so life-changing to these prisoners and how some of them could see themselves more in leadership roles. They were in charge of the book. This had never happened in their life. It just made you feel like, I got to support this program.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes.
I was going to ask if you could each, sort of like a call to action, what do you need from us and your community to support each of your organizations?
Sure.
Yeah.
For Shower Power, we are always accepting monetary donations. We have a huge project that's about to start where we're going to reconstruct the building next door for a shelter permanently, so we don't have to funnel people around and leave them outside in the cold. So monetary is always number one. You can get on our website. You can go to our Facebook. You can check it out like that. or sponsoring a meal on a Friday. We serve 160 people. They come through Shower Power every Friday. So if you want to sponsor a meal, you can cater out to wherever you want. You can make it yourself. We leave that completely up to you. Feel free to check that out on Facebook as well. Volunteering. We always need volunteers, and volunteers that are regular volunteers. We're looking for a couple good core volunteers that want to stay with us. We do have a good core right now, but we're getting so big that we're trying to expand to have those core volunteers to maybe make some insights and be on some planning with us and just be a little bit closer tied into the ministry that we have. We are purely private donation. We don't operate off any grants or anything like that. So funding is a big deal for us, and the private donations are just, we couldn't do it without you. So that's what Shower Power needs.
Carla, do you have outside volunteers to help with prison book clubs?
What we have instead are humanities scholars that lead those book clubs.
And so that grant pays.
That grant
I see.
pays them. And so we're very fortunate there to be able to have that source. As I said, the book clubs are growing faster, so certainly we accept donations. I would also, I think, in light of the fact that Stuart has already raised the issue, writing your congressman and saying, will you please make sure that the funds that you voted to go to state humanities councils actually get distributed?
Well, I could say this because I was just in Washington and meeting with, and I always talk about our prison education programs, no matter the office that I'm in, and there is strong support for this work. I'm able to make the case, as Holly did, that these programs benefit all of us. And so, go to the website of your congressperson, and there's a form, and you can just say, hey, I heard about this great prison education program, the Humanities Council. We would, please make sure that they sort of continue to receive funding. Whenever I sit down, they often say, we get all these letters about you. That's, and so it's, know that every member of our delegation supports this work, and we just want them to know that it matters to you.
Yeah. We operate this program with a grant from Mellon, but the grant goes to the Mississippi Humanities Council. If the Humanities Council is not strong, then this program is not strong.
And so what I want to also piggyback on what he said is, and we kind of talked about this offline, but I feel, having done this for 10 plus years at this point, I have seen a shift in what I call the national conversation about incarceration. We were all feeling that what we've been doing the last few decades not really working well. People are returning to prison. It's not a super rehabilitative environment. And what are some things that we can do to kind of change how we address incarceration in our country? And as a result, my call to action would be, if you're interested in this issue or tangentially interested in this issue, serve in some way. Time, talent, treasure, right? Pick your poison. I'm all three. I'm an overachiever. I give a lot of time to Big House Books. I also give my talent and treasure. But donating books, donating funds, donating a couple hours on a Sunday afternoon. But even more important than that, awareness raising. So as Big House Books has grown, we are statewide. We serve all state and county facilities, up, down, all 82 counties, and everywhere in between. But we just want the general public to know more about us. So we have a great Facebook and Instagram page that Miranda manages for us. We also have a brand new shiny website that I'm super excited about, so check that out. We have recurring donation options. On average, one package of books costs us $7 a month to send. So if I can get a bunch of donors to give me $7 a month, I'm set. And that's like a cup of coffee at this point. And so, I know with the grant funding that the Mellon Foundation has, a little different than us and Shower Power, where we're pretty much private donation geared. But if you can just talk about us in your local communities and let people know, have you heard about Big House Books? Have you heard about Shower Power? They're doing really great work. I think I'm going to go serve one Sunday afternoon. Come with me, or share our content, and just let people know that we're doing good work in our communities.
I'm looking forward to volunteering tomorrow. So we're going to end with a reception and a birthday cake, because I'm here visiting Tasha Shelby, who now calls me her aunt Elizabeth, so my niece. So Tasha has spent 28 years in prison. She's innocent. And so her birthday is tomorrow on March 8th. So we have a birthday cake for Tasha. And Penny Warner, who is her aunt, who's been driving from Tennessee to see her during all these years and being an advocate for her. We were all there this morning. Anne was there with us. And then last night we had dinner with Amy. And it meant so much to Tasha that we're all together here and that we saw her this morning and that she loves pink. So we have a big birthday cake from Campbell's Bakery. And I'd love it if we could all gather around the cake and Penny can perhaps say a few words and we'll sing happy birthday to Tasha. It's her 51st birthday. And we're going to be able to give her a video of us singing happy birthday. And then I hope that you'll all have a chance to meet one another. I so appreciate your coming.
Can I add that Tasha is one of the biggest cheerleaders in the prison ed program at She's going to be graduating, but there are women in that program that, when you say, how did you get into the program? What pulled you into the program? And it's like, Tasha pulled me in. She got me and told me that I needed to be a part of it. So she is making a difference in the space that she's in.
So anyway, so we'll gather around the cake.
And thank you, Elizabeth, for coming from New York City.